Hello to all of our friends, all the friends and followers and members at Parent Tween Connection. We are rounding out the last day today of our inaugural roundtable. Thank you for those of you who've tuned in, and thank you for those of you who choose to watch this down the road. If we haven't met, I'm Clarissa Constantine, and I'm the founder of the Parent Tween Connection. And our mission here is to create community among parents primarily, but also grandparents, aunts, uncles, other folks in the proverbial village that it takes to raise a kid. And we focus primarily on supporting families with kids between the ages of 10 and 20. Now, all the folks that we've had join so far this month have been professionals whom you can reach out to for support along the way. Laura today, by the way, Laura, welcome and thanks for being with me.
Hello.
Laura is unique. She is the one guest that we've had this month who has nothing to do with serving families, teens, or tweens. She and I actually met on a business networking mixer, I don't know, 3 months ago, maybe, Laura. Yeah. And when you found out that I had a podcast and that, here's what we're doing, a Parent Tween Connection, you were like, oh, I'm in marketing, but pick me. And I was like, okay, dude, I was a little confused at first, but then we started talking. And so I'd like to start our conversation today by why did you raise your hand when you have no business, like a professional business related here?
Thank you. And thank you for having me. Really, I am an expert at marketing, as you mentioned, but I'm really an expert at parenting, and I'm an expert at parenting lots of different types of kids. Okay. And I just, if I had to elevate one thing that I actually know a heck of a lot about, it is that. And unfortunately, the universe has thrown me all kinds of challenges, and I love helping, and I've had so many angels supporting me along my path. And as you mentioned, it takes a village. It takes a couple of villages. And I have benefited from so many layers of knowledge. And I just would love to contribute back now that I'm a little bit further on my road, to anyone who might be, needing support.
That's awesome. I know that when you and I talked initially, you were like, I went through a lot of things as a single mom and felt alone. And like one of the messages that you really wanted to share for other folks who are navigating some tough stuff with their kids is they're not alone. So can you frame this a little bit, just, without maintain your kids' confidentiality and the privacy aspect of things, but can you just kind of give us a bullet list of some of the things that you've navigated along the way?
Of course. Well, you mentioned single mom. So yeah, single parenting is definitely its own version of challenge. And there's all different types of single parents out there, whether they're fully single with, a spouse that's passed away, if they have good relationships with their ex-spouse, contested, etc. So there's that. I had a very contested relationship with my ex, unfortunately, and I still do. My kids were 6 months old and 3 years old when he left and got remarried and had other children. So that was its own thing. So I would say, pretty early on, we were faced with an eating disorder, some mental health challenges, some learning difficulties. And then again, with single parenting often comes dating people with kids or not with kids. And that comes with its own host of, not always
complexities.
Complexities, like not only bad things, obviously lots of good things.
Sure.
And
absolutely.
So, dating people, I've dated people that had 4 children. I've dated people who had no children prior to being in a relationship with me. And so navigating those relationships for the kids has a lot to work through and be careful with, because these kids are, coming in and out of relationship with you. It's not just you and your significant other, they're in the relationship too. And so in my 18 years of being single, I'm engaged now, but in my 18 years,
congrats, by the way.
Thank you. I've had several really wonderful relationships, but again, like you have to uncouple just like you would, not exactly like a divorce, but, coming in and out of relationship with your whole family, not just the person. So in my current relationship, I have my fiance has 2 children who are 14-year-old twins. So, they are twins. That's another type of dynamic. And my kids are 18 now, and my oldest just turned 22 on Friday. So, we have a bundle right now.
So throughout the years with the stuff that you navigated, you mentioned some of certainly the complexities of dating people who also have kids, complexities of eating disorders and mental health, and the challenging co-parenting, presuming there's a co-parenting aspect, the contestability, as you mentioned. What were some of the things that you found were most helpful for you, either practices that you found or books that you read or coaches or mentors whom you sought out? Because one of the things actually that I know that you mentioned is you're not alone, but who are these people around you? Like, what are the resources that you found?
Well, personally, I feel it's very important to personally fortify yourself to be the best version of you that you can be, so that when you're navigating the different waves of parenting, you are, your ship is tight. You are watertight. So I have done a lot of personal growth. I've done a lot of professional growth, of course, too. I became a yoga instructor after years and years of yoga. That really helped me.
Okay.
I deepened my practice to become a yoga teacher and a meditation teacher. So, when my daughter, specifically one of my daughters, really would have challenges, I was as, peaceful and ready for the upset or whatever as possible. And along with that personal growth, I have surrounded myself with professionals, that are tailored to my kids' needs. So that could, involving the school for team support, and not just individual teachers, but administrative support. My youngest needed a 504, which is an educational plan, then an IEP. She ended up going to a specialized learning, a specialized school for kids that learn differently. She goes to boarding school now. But with that came an educational coordinator, someone who knows about different types of schools and can read a neuropsychology report and, understand the unique needs of this particular child. So, with just the learning piece, we had a team of probably 8 people, whether it be, in the public school, people we've hired for support, and then obviously the neuropsych and psychologist who can understand the child. So, I think it's really important to feel like, I like almost like a project manager when you're a mom or a parent, like, you are just part of a very complex system of to-dos, and you don't have to do all the to-dos. You don't have to be a psychologist. You don't have to be a educator. You don't have to be a specialist in any one of these areas, but you can make those phone calls, ask for recommendations, and vet. Never feel like you can't vet somebody. And vet the people, and then create the team and make sure that the team people are talking too. So that's, I think that's one way that I got through it. Books, of course, I've read so many. It's hard to pick out one. My child has a mood disorder, so learning what's called collaborative problem solving really helped me. It's called CPS, and that is a style of communication where, there's like an A, B, and C. And A is like, I'm the mom, you do it my way, bed on time, wake up on time, do your homework. And then C might be, oh, you're just, a delicate flower and I'll do everything you say. Oh, I'm sorry, you're not feeling well today. You don't have to go to school. And then B is like, I've noticed that you've had trouble doing your homework. What's up with that? Or I've noticed that you've been not waking up on time? What's up with that?
Mm-hmm.
And it seems really simple, but like you end up involving the child so that they can be like, well, I'm not doing my homework because, I've been really distracted at school. Oh, well, why are you distracted at school?
Mm-hmm.
And well, I've been really distracted because I don't really understand it. Okay,
Right.
what's up with that? And, then you discover, that they can't read or, they're not putting the pieces
Right.
together. And instead of just pushing through and being like, I said to do your homework, why aren't you doing your homework? And again, it seems so simple, but I think a lot of people miss or can miss,
Mm-hmm.
because life gets busy and you're just like, the school bus is coming. Like,
Right.
why aren't you up and ready? Well, I'm not up and ready because I'm not sleeping. Why aren't you sleeping? Well, I'm really worried. Why are you worried? Oh, well, I'm getting bullied at school. I mean, you end up discovering things a little differently. So I got a lot of richness out of books around collaborative problem solving.
I love that. That falls so much in line with what some of the other professionals that we've had with us in the last month have said, that the behavior is the symptom. The behavior isn't the problem. The behavior is an expression of something internal. And that part of what our responsibility is as the adults is to do that digging, do that exploration, and to
Right.
be like, hey, what else is going? What else is going on? What else is happening? I wonder why that's going on. And just helping the kids kind of peel back their own layers, because they don't know how to peel back those layers yet.
Right.
And they don't necessarily know how to express that there even are layers.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, this kid who is absolutely freaking gorgeous now, she had everything, she had everything in like fourth to seventh grade. She had the glasses, she had the braces, she had, a big nose that she her face hadn't grown into yet. And she got teased, she got bullied, she got it from every side. And of course, now she's model gorgeous. But in those early days, people teased her about her eyes being too big, her nose being too big, her braces, her glasses, everything. And, you know, she just, you know, got teased and bullied, and we didn't know at first that this was happening. And it
Mhm.
was subtle enough that the teachers didn't notice. And anyway, it was really hard. Those early days were really hard.
So now that you're at, I mean, you've got 18 and 22. Granted, you're blending the 14-year-old
Yeah.
twins into this, so you're not you've got a few more years before you're quote unquote out of the teenage years, right? Together. I know one of the things that you had mentioned is that as a single mom, you were like, it seems to me like you were saying before we actually went live today that you were like, I knew I couldn't do it all on my own because I'm a single mom. And so perhaps you were um, maybe a little bit more open to pulling in that team. And you've seen something different with some of the folks that you recognize or that are navigating stuff who are coupled up. What do you
Right.
think that misconception is that some of the couples as co-parents have relative to supporting their kids?
I think that's a really good point. So I didn't have a co-parent to do this with, and there's challenges in that, of course. But when you're coupled and you're in this protected family nest system, I think there's some assumption that, oh, we can figure this out together. There's two of us, and
Mhm.
together we're the team. And
Mhm.
that's a very that can be interestingly challenging in its own way, because now you're married to that person, and this person, this parent thinks, oh, I'm here, I think Billy's being bullied. Well, the other one's like, oh, Billy should just grow up and and deal with
Rub
it.
some
And
dirt
so,
in it.
yeah, so now you have two people who are loving spouses that are in a disagreement to
Mhm.
how they should handle it. So there's that piece, which is, it can be very, very challenging on parents who
Mhm.
love each other because they
Mhm.
have different viewpoints. So there's that, but then there's also the fear that, well, we've got this, we're two, we should just figure this out together. But I think
Uh-huh.
that's um, there's a missed opportunity there, because you still are only two people. You aren't psychologists, you aren't educators, you aren't any of these other types of specialists. And when there's issues, it's important to still create that more village team that you've talked about.
Sure. And it's interesting. I remember when I was a kid, my mom was a very, very private person. She didn't like people knowing her business. She didn't like people knowing what was going on. I think now, in retrospect, with the wisdom of age and my own experience, I think there was a lot of shame rooted in that, of like, I don't want people to know that there are any chinks in the armor, or I don't want the world, we don't need the world to know about our problems. Like my mom at one point, when the topic of therapy came up, her response was, we don't need to go air our problems to other people. We don't need to tell them what's going on. And so that was her, of like, I don't want people to know that we're not perfect.
Yeah, I didn't even mention that because it's been so long since I was married, but you're absolutely right. I think that because you are together, and, one would hope or assume that you're quote unquote perfect, that whenever there's something that isn't mainstream happening, it can look like a flaw in this beautiful veneer of perfection. And we all know that no one is perfect. No family is perfect. No marriage is perfect. No child is perfect. Nobody's perfect. And I certainly can say that 1,000 times over. But when you've scratched the surface, it's like, that's really vulnerable.
It is, yeah. And I think that's a case for a lot of folks. I don't think it's exclusive to married couples. I don't think it's exclusive to married couples with kids. Right. I know married couples who don't have children who, still have an idea of like, we see the social media feed, right? Like the perfect world that everybody else lives in. And the fact of the matter is, like, there's stuff that goes on behind closed doors that we don't always talk about, but that's why these professionals are there, right? Like if you just bury your head in the sand, we can't ask for help, and we can't help ourselves or help our kids.
That's true. There are a lot of support systems even within the schools. My oldest is pursuing that professionally. She wants to be a guidance counselor, and cool. a lot of her friends whose parents were kind of dismissive, seeking outside support for mental health or whatnot, did use their internal school counselors for that purpose. So, I mean, I think that it's important to get words out to kids too, that there are support systems beyond what their parents can provide. Which is, a lot of, like you said, parents they don't even want to recognize it in themselves that they're struggling. They think, oh, Billy's going to move on. He's going to grow up and not feel bullied, or, oh, the eating thing, that'll be figured out. Or, it can get sometimes figured out on its own, but it's also sometimes a little bit, it needs some help.
I was going to say, and I think it's more often than not the case that even if it can get figured out on its own, why would we leave them to figure it out on its own? Like, we help kids learn to walk. Why would we not help them learn to navigate emotions? Exactly. They're both developmental skills.
And one of the things that you and I talked about before the recording started was not to wait. And I think that, if I think back, elementary school lasted forever in some ways, but once they get to middle school, it's like boom. Once they get to high school, it's even faster. Right. College, the same thing. Like, you don't have the benefit of 15 years to figure this out. Like, they're going to be, out of middle school in 2 seconds. High school even faster. I mean, it really goes fast.
Right. So don't wait for them. Don't wait for you. It sounds like also, right?
Don't wait for you. I mean, take action. Don't be afraid. If you sense that there is something that needs support, it probably is, definitely the case, if not even stronger. I mean, my kids were very good communicators, thank goodness. I have friends whose children, primarily boys, but girls and boys, just are very close to the vest. They don't share a lot. And I think that if you sense something, whether it's, marijuana usage or school delays or whatever, take action. Maybe, just if you feel that gut feeling, take action.
So here's a question for you. I know you said your kids were pretty good communicators, and you see in other families that they're not, and that can happen for an array of reasons. One of the things that we always say, or that I always say to families, is like, it's not a question of whether your kids are having conversations about sex, drugs, rock and roll, alcohol, college, all the things, right?
Right.
My postulate, or my hypothesis is that it's not about whether your kids are having these conversations. The question is actually whether you, as the adult in their life, are part of those conversations.
That's a good point.
If we've got kids then who aren't as communicative naturally, because some are and some are not, and some might want to be but aren't really sure how to test those waters, what's your recommendation for folks or for parents about how to have some of those uncomfortable conversations?
So I suggest, because my fiance, I'm a very different parent than my fiance.
Okay.
And so I think part of my success with my kids is that I was a role model for sharing myself.
Okay.
And so I wasn't this, this other. I was, and again, maybe this is because I was a single parent and we were more in our own little like trifecta bubble together. But
okay, yeah.
But I shared about my life. I shared about my challenges. I shared about things that were confronting to me or challenging, or obstacles I overcame, or things I was proud about that I had done that were scary. And I role modeled for my kids that, I have challenges that I sometimes don't know how to figure out. And then, wow, I figured it out, and how proud I am of myself. And so I was a role model. And I think that when parents are kind of the other, and they also kind of look perfect, and everything is just, as it should be, which obviously it's not, it's hard to kind of talk into that. If you have a lot of mess, you're not going to throw the mess on a beautiful brand new couch. But if there's a couch that's kind of lived in, and it's comfortable, and you can kind of get in there, then yeah, you're going to be okay to throw a few kernels of popcorn and not feel so bad about being messy.
Right. And or the thought that comes to me is like, those kernels of popcorn can be vacuumed too. So even if it is a little bit more pristine couch, if we show that it can get cleaned out a little bit, like that gives us a little bit of a comfort level too.
Right. Yeah. And
awesome.
Yeah, it's okay to bring your mess.
Well, and I think as the adults, if we show that we have mess, it's normal. Like, we're normalizing that life is messy. And I mean, let's be honest, life is messy. So if we can normalize that for our kids, then it allows them to have messy too.
Right.
Just not overly messy bedrooms, as I hear.
I gave that up. It took a long time. Oh my goodness. I used to want like the beds made. I used to want everything. No, I gave that one up, but it did take a while.
Fair enough. All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I was going to say, so what I'm hearing is you're not alone. Everyone's got mess. It's okay to ask for help to organize the mess. Be the project manager of the people who are helping to organize the mess, as it were, like just the mess that is life.
Right.
Taking care of yourself. You mentioned for you yoga. If I recall, I think you had also mentioned that you explored Reiki along the way.
Oh yeah, I'm certified.
I talked about that.
I'm certified in Reiki as well. Energy work really, really, really worked for my child. Like, so being able to give her that was really helpful to our family.
Awesome. All right. So taking care of yourself, putting on that oxygen mask, as they say on the airlines. But I really liked the analogy that you used of making sure that your ship is watertight, because I think, especially as multitaskers, which single parents especially have to be, working moms are also, You know, we're like, oh, that little hole in the wall, I'll deal with it later. And then, oh, but wait, here's another hole in the wall of the ship. Here, oh, and then all of a sudden you've got multiple chinks in the armor, so to speak, or like multiple perforations in the hull of the ship. And then all of a sudden you wonder, you're like, I can't bail water. Like I just can't do it quickly enough. I can't do enough. And then that's when it can kind of become catastrophic. So, or at least supremely overwhelming. So I like your point of the description of making sure that your ship is at least as watertight as it can be, right?
Right.
So that if you do spring a leak in the hull, then it's not as devastating.
Right. And I think no matter what your kid's challenge is, you're going to be tested by them. And so, you know, to be able to not raise your voice, not yell, not take your mess into their, you know, into their stuff, like, you know, to be as pristine with your own mess as possible. Again, like, be a human, like, show your humanity, but don't barf your mess on your kids, you know, like you can't, like you have to be the strong one. And, you know, things get really messy when people lose their temper and drink a ton of alcohol and, you know, just aren't tight with their own adult stuff.
Right. So there is the aspect that we are still the adults. And yes, we can show that there's mess, but we've got to keep our mess reasonably organized. But I think that also comes to finding resources, right?
For yourself too. Yeah.
Yeah. Whether it's somebody to come clean the house once a month.
Right.
You know, is it a luxury? Maybe. And if that one day a month you walk into the house and you can breathe,
right.
Like that moment to breathe. I mean, for me, it was hiring a virtual assistant and just seeing like, you know, she hasn't taken a ton on. We're just onboarding her now, but like looking at my inbox at the end of the day and going, oh, these 5 tasks were taken care of and I didn't have to do them.
Right. I have to say, like, I had a housekeeper every other week for the entire time up until COVID. During COVID, obviously nothing happened like that, but I've just basically been cleaning my own house since then. But during all those years of heavy duty parenting, every other week. And it was such a gift to myself and to my family just to have that relief and that structure too. You know, it was like, okay, guys, now you have to clean your room for the housekeeper so the housekeeper can clean your room.
Right. Right.
And it wasn't always about me. But anyway, I think those treats are not treats. They're life preservers, you know?
Absolutely. Awesome. So I love to wrap up our conversations. And by the way, I'm so grateful that you're with us today. Just the gesture of love to other parents who are still kind of in the muck of like, hey, there is an end in sight. You can get there. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I love to wrap up our conversations by asking our guests which of our foundations of connection resonates the most. So for folks who aren't familiar with foundations of connection, these are the underpinning of everything that we do at Parent Tween Connection. They're the underpinning for Parent Tween Village, which is our family community, or for our trusted expert network, our professional community, and just our conversations here in the quad and such. And these literally came out of a conversation that I had with myself a few years ago. I've been a test prep specialist for 25 years now. And I sat down and I was like, okay, why is it that my high school students will frequently talk to me about something before they're ready to talk to their parents about it? And so I just kind of went through and I was like, what's the connection that I offer? So that's where connection came from. And so the first letter of each of these phrases spells out connection. So I'm going to read them for folks listening. And Laura, I'd love to know, like, which one resonates the most with you? Which one do you think is most relevant to having teens? Whatever kind of pops up for you. All right. So here we go. We start with create a safe place, observe, non-judgment, nod and smile, as in like zip it and like, you know, let them respond. Explore, challenge your truths or curiosity, take your time, innovate, own your own story, or nurture.
Oh my God, they're all so good. So definitely the first one was like, oh, this has to be the right one, creating a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
But also, you know, owning your own story.
Mm-hmm.
And then nurturing, of course, is wonderful. What was the T again?
Take your time.
I think taking your time will win today because I really try to approach things with curiosity
Mm-hmm.
and not like I'm the boss, I know everything, or, you know, the bus is coming, let's get going. Like, you know, really take your time. And that kind of goes into the, like, that, what's up with that conversation. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you're just like, dude, why aren't you waking up? Like, let's go. Or, taking your time, being curious, allowing the story to unfold and not be a story that you think you know already. So I
Got
think
it.
that is going to win today.
I love it. I love it. And I love that so many of them have multiple manners of interpretation based on the nature of the conversation, because it brings more flavor to it. You know, they're broadly applicable. And for anyone listening, these are not meant to be linear. It's not like you have to have the safe place before you can observe, before you can have non-judgment. They are absolutely like so tightly interwoven. One absolutely leads to the next and then comes back. So think of it kind of like the ball of yarn that the cat got to. It's like the connection all tingle tangled together. So
That's great. They're very good.
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Laura, thank you. Again, thank you. You know, just from one mom you to other families that are navigating rough stuff. I thank you. I wish that more parents had somebody like you to just be like, it's okay. There's help. Let's find a way to get there. Um, and I know that there's going to be people who hear exactly what they need to hear when they need to hear it from our conversation. So I so appreciate your time. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right, everybody. If you are interested in coming back to ask any questions, you can comment through our Facebook group. I will make sure to reach out to Laura if you want to ask her anything specific. And if you'd like a copy of our Foundations of Connection, you can download them from our website at parenttweenconnection.com. And there's actually an ebook, which is a bit of an expanded version of the Foundations, called How to Connect with Absolutely Anybody. You can download that there as well. So, Laura, thank you again, and we'll catch everybody next time.
Thank you.